Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. And hi, Tricia. Hi, Brian.
Hey there.
And my name is Carol Hunter, and I am with the Central Park United Neighbors Board of Directors. I'm also chair of the Education Committee. And Central Park United Neighbors is a registered neighborhood organization. And this is our monthly meeting for the Education Committee. And we're very focused today about taking a look at assessing what the results were, what we think the results are from the survey, the education survey that we put out that Brian and Tricia were very instrumental in creating and maintaining, and we appreciate that very, very much. So Brian is a member of the committee and has been for a while, and Tricia is a member of the board, and she is a member of this committee as well. So we have two members that I know of. Heather is unable to be here. She's at a PTA meeting at Willow at her child's school, so she's not with us. And then Jamie Hatchkins is also on the board and on this committee, and she's out of town. So, and if we can have the folks introduce themselves, because I don't know who you are, please. So whoever would like to go first.
Hi, my name's Bree. I'm with Councilwoman Chantel Lewis's office. Let me know if you can hear me or not.
I
Uh,
can't.
okay, cool. Yeah, we wanted to make sure that we were showing up to this just because we're back in school season, and I know that we have a couple of hot spots around schools in District 8, and we definitely want to be able to be an accessible resource for y'all. And let me know if it's helpful for our office to be here. Or if it would be better to maybe set up a meeting with you and myself, Carol, or someone else in
Okay.
our office. But
Well,
hi.
thank you. We really appreciate your presence. And I was going to be sending Councilwoman sort of a brief summary of what comes out today, and certainly what has come out of the survey that we did. So I wanted to apprise her in your office of that, as well as some of the like the DPS at large directors, the two, and then the director, Michelle Quattlebaum for our district. So there were other people that was going to go way beyond our committee here and way beyond CPUN. But thank you for being here.
Welcome, Bree.
Will you introduce yourself, please? Ed, are you with us? Maybe not. Okay. And is it Chira? I'm looking. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, sorry for hopping on a few minutes late. My name is Kira. I'm the education
Chira.
director at Bluff Lake Nature Center.
Oh, okay. Lovely. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay, good. Good. So other people may be with us a little bit later, but at any rate, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to focus. What we wanted to do today was just identify the takeaways that kind of kept presenting themselves, the larger takeaways from the survey. And I had made the observation that I felt like all three areas that were addressed, transportation safety and volunteerism, all kind of in many cases could mesh together. And so there was some fluidity there. And then also, we're going to identify those things, but then also it's kind of the now what? Can we identify some doable actions based on what we've learned from the survey and what people's concerns are? And then identifying them, and then can we even establish a timeline? Maybe not today, but to keep that in mind. And speaking of keeping things in mind, how do we make these things happen, these actions happen? Who's going to be doing the work? What's going to be the ed committee's members' role? So, and who else is going to be involved in terms of organizations, that sort of thing. I think some of you probably know there's a new Facebook page, Central Park Volunteers Denver, and that just was established this summer. And I had a conversation, actually a phone conversation with both of the women who set this up, and I can see some ways to be involved with their website and with them as well. So we're looking, and then Central Park Business Association. Have I got that right? Is that the title, Central Park Business Association? or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. And you know, and a role for them as well in terms of when we're determining and what we're determining as far as needs. And Kristen, do you want to introduce yourself? I see you've just come on.
Hi, Kristen Fry, CPUN board member, education committee member.
Thanks.
Sorry
So
for
we're
being
just
late.
that you're fine. So we're identifying the takeaways from the survey, what kept repeating itself in so many words, whether it was, and then again, this overlap between transportation and safety and volunteerism. So does anybody want to kick that off, or I have a list, but I'm happy to hear from those who have looked at the survey. Christian or Brian or Trisha.
Yeah, I'll give you my quick opinion on it. The
Right.
main two topics consistently kept coming up was transportation and safety. And the two of them did overlap a little bit, obviously. Transportation was very much geared toward the students and getting that, a lot of it was geared towards the high school kids. There's a lot of kids that come to Northfield and they come on buses that take a ridiculous amount of time for them to get there because they're coming from Green Valley Ranch and Montbello and whatnot. We have tried to engage our TD, and our rep here in Central Park disappears very frequently, and we can't get her to respond. It's very frustrating because it's a very solvable. This is not a hard, you know, of all the hard things, this is a very, very easy one to solve, and we can't get any response. I've tried multiple times. She actually lives not too far from me. I kind of almost thought maybe I'd just go knock on her door, but that's a little creepy, so I won't do that. But we need some help in getting that. The transportation is a problem. The parking is a problem. I mean, it's already coming up. It's the first month of school and it has already become the hottest topic. The kids have nowhere to park. The students, the teachers don't have a lot of spots to park. And it seems like we can't really get a lot of the same. We need to get all the people to the table at once and try to figure it out. I mean, this is not a hard problem. And so that was the thing that kept coming up. Safety in general from the transportation is really the lack of police, you know, ticketing for speeding, for, you know, high school kids being crazy, driving crazy. They would like to see way more police in the area during school, you know, like first bell, morning bell, after bell, just to become a presence so that everyone knows that they're there. And I think, you know, obviously that would probably dampen down a lot of the craziness that goes on. The SRO in the school, I've talked to multiple times. The guy's really, really great, but I mean, he's only one person and he's doing the best he can to try to, you know, wrangle 2,200 students. So that was an underlying topic across the board on all the questions. And it wasn't really underlying. It was very prominent. So the two of them do intersect quite a bit. So any help we can get from Chantal's office, that would be great. DPS seems to be, we're going to try to hammer on them again. The people that need to be in this discussion are probably Representative Lewis, you know, DPS, which we know the two people that we're supposed to be in contact with at DPS, and then RTD. And getting all those people together would be great. And we just need to, you know, assign tasks to essentially just consistently be reaching out to these people and trying to organize like one meeting where everyone can talk about it. The principal is doing what she can, but you know, it can't be her main focus, right? So any help that we can do to help arrange that, I think is where we get the actionable and solve this problem.
We have also been in contact, and this is kind of like a tangential thing. There's the neighborhood right across the street from the Paul Sandoval campus is an HOA neighborhood. And so we're also in contact with the president there, who does voice a lot of concerns about like the impact of the parking.
He's pretty mad. He is.
Oh no, it's Destiny McKelvin.
I don't know about the HOA president, but that entire neighborhood is really mad. Like,
Absolutely. And I guess two little pieces of information that I think will be helpful in like us kind of being able to present a united front with the information that's available is that those streets are not currently owned by the city of Denver. They belong to the Park
Yeah.
Metro District, and so that handoff is still kind of in legal limbo. And so that process is in motion, but we don't necessarily have a timeline for when that's going to change. And the second thing with it is I have learned recently that when schools are built in general across the state of Colorado, they don't have to go through the municipal level to do any of the traffic studies that we would for any other kind of buildings that go through. This is like a state level, they just kind of plop a school somewhere and then they do all of the design. So definitely want to pull in Dottie to do some of that like environmental design as far as like the traffic impact, the speeding impact, because they're the ones who are going to be able to make more environmental long-term changes that don't necessarily require the presence of DPD. And we can definitely invite DPD. We have a good relationship with the District 5 police. So I feel like they'll be helpful partners in moving this along to make the whole situation better for everyone.
I mean, some of the easiest like low hanging fruit are really to just get DPS to do an express bus from Montbello and from Green Valley Ranch so that those kids aren't having to do, RTD. Because I mean, it takes them close to 45 minutes to get there every day. And then the RTD stop is like a half a mile away. So it would be great if DPS would just do a dedicated like express bus. That would be the easiest fix right there. For that part of it. The other part with the parking, obviously that's a thing. The Parks and Rec owns that giant plot of land, that 9 acres. And I don't know, we do definitely need to find out who the person is that would possibly be involved in talking about expanding the parking. That would be the other pretty easy solution. I mean, you don't really need that much. You could get away with a half an acre and it would be just for teacher parking, which would alleviate a lot of the spaces on the street that the students could then park.
Anything else you want to add, Tricia? Or questions for Tricia?
Yeah, as far as parking, you're correct. Tricia's absolutely right about the parks land that's there, but getting the Parks Department and DPS together to make an agreement, and basically, I think it's going to just be DPS coming up with the funds to buy the land if that's what has to happen, and then also to build parking lot. And so it's going to be a bureaucracy decision, and there's only so much the community can do as far as pressure. And certainly Chantel's office could certainly help, but she's going to be very limited also. So I'm not quite sure until DPS really wants to do something about it, it's not going to happen. And I find them to be pretty unsympathetic usually to these kinds of issues. But and
yeah,
Michelle,
that's true.
And I haven't found Michelle to be terribly interested in these kinds of things either. So I'm not sure who the advocate or who the person inside the district or in the city that can really help with this. So it's going to be difficult.
Anything else you want to add, Brian, as far as other issues?
The other, as Trish mentioned, RTD is also another huge bureaucracy, which is not easy to penetrate, and they're very, very limited and on resources and drivers and things in there, and their routes they had to scale back. So having them do something about another route is probably not going to happen. I think it's a great idea to get an express bus by DPS, and I think it's imperative because to maintain the 35% preference for students outside of Central Park, I think this community really wants that to continue, and those kids are being really handicapped without the proper transportation. And I think if we can continue to impress on DPS, the 35% preference is important, and which then that teams up with the need for transportation, and perhaps they'll listen to that kind of logic. But I'm not, to be honest, I don't think they care. I don't think downtown cares about the 35% preference and what this community wants to do, to be honest, about anything.
I wonder if this is Kristen, I wonder if we partnered with Green Valley Ranch RNO and got their voices into the conversation as well. Because, you know, if we see it,
Yeah.
they probably see it too.
Oh, definitely.
And
idea.
they may be more impassioned about it and saying, you know, there are folks in their community that are not able to get to, you know, quality education they were promised to be able to get to that 35%, et cetera. That'd just be another angle.
Yeah, that would be another ally. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Does
That's a-
Montbello have an RNO?
Montbello has a couple RNOs. They have Montbello 2020 and then the Montbello Organizing Committee. And we work with Councilman Gilmore's office as well. So we can make a connection with the Green Valley Ranch RNO or RNOs. I'm not sure if there's multiple. And then, you know, obviously create a space for all the RNOs to be able to connect if that's helpful.
That'd be great. I mean, I think, you know, the more neighborhoods that are talking about this, the better, really. It's really like the most baffling, like easy problem to solve. And so you can do an express bus 2 times a day for both of those areas and it would solve a whole bunch of problems. So
I think this keeps coming up. And Kristen, Brian, did you want to add anything?
No, go ahead, Karen.
And Kristen, I'm going to come back to you and
Sure.
see what you are going to add to the conversation. But what keeps coming up for me, and when I reread, whether it's the comment section or whether it's the charts, the data, about collaborating with different groups and how important that is, whether it's the Central Park Business Association. And we have some very specific requests from Northfield High School in terms of ways that, for instance, the Central Park Business Association could be involved. So you've just identified more ways, more organizations where we know one another's business. And I mean that in a very positive way. I always do when I talk about, generally I do, knowing one another's business and how helpful and then how beneficial that can be in terms of collaboration for everybody. So I just wanted that to me in fact, it's at the top of the list, collaborating and also collaborating with other CPUN committees, with the Safe Streets Committee, for example, is important. Communication and outreach is important. So that's something I'm going to bring up with the board meeting about. It's going to benefit all of us if we know one another's business a little bit more. And that doesn't mean everybody's got to attend every single, 6 committee meeting. But we can figure that out in terms of committee members' roles and how we can stay apprised of one another's issues and what's going on with one another. So, and especially education. Education is about we've got our nose in everybody's business, and that's a good thing. We need to do that. So, Kristen, what floats to the top for you?
So I agree with everything that's been brought up so far. A couple of one interesting idea that I thought would be easy to implement and would help with transportation and get cars off the road, et cetera, is bike storage. That's probably a lot cheaper to put bike storage starting at Northfield, several other schools if needed, depending on capacity and how many kids would like to ride their bikes, et cetera. But if we could get kids riding their bikes more, I think a lot of kids don't ride their bikes because they know that it's going to get stolen wherever they put it on campus. I mean, our kids have had their bikes stolen. So that might be a cheaper, quicker way. And we probably have land space for that somewhere on Northfield's campus. There's a lot to think through. I think it's a lot more expensive to put in some sort of ID badging system, et cetera. So maybe it's just like, hey, if you want to ride your bike, it's open from these hours. And there needs to be some sort of monitor. Bike locks. Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thanks for the Vision Zero point.
Right. And that's another, okay, as far as organizations like Safe Streets and all the bicycle lobby and all that sort of thing. This is triggering a whole lot of different organizations that in some way, shape, or form we can collaborate with and get ideas about. And two of the transportation and safety, people repeatedly said alternate ways other than cars, whether you're taking your elementary school student in a car to school, about how do you safely and what are alternative routes and means for getting kids to school. And yes, a lot of kids want to ride their bikes, but yes, you're right about, I'm guessing you're right, Kristen, about the stolen bikes, but it's also about safety and
Yeah.
about, I mean, the bike lanes are not safe, particularly when they don't have bollards in between the road and the bicyclist. And so I think there's just, I mean, I know adults who won't ride in bike lanes. And I see it on our street all the time. We have a bike lane out here and people don't use it. They're on the sidewalk because they don't feel safe. So how can we make, again, transportation and safety, you know, one and the same, connected?
The other point that I thought was raised quite a few times in the comments in the survey was just capacity of our schools.
Yes.
And, you know, just ask, I understand that we can't do very much about this at all, but it's something that we could raise up to Michelle Quattlebaum, Chantel Lewis, and just, you know, let them know that some folks in our neighborhood are saying that they would like to see more capacity. They were asking about when's the other middle school supposed to be built. I guess there was one planned in Northfield,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
There's a plot of land over it on 59th.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's around,
That's sitting there.
it's about 10
It's not
acres.
going to happen anytime soon, though.
No, it's not.
Probably, that's
Yeah.
kind of a long, it's like way out.
Yeah. And I realize the feasibility of all this, but just you making sure that we raise that up.
No, it's an issue, and that's on my list too. That came up time and again.
Yeah.
So capacity, growth, however you want to put it. What else, Kristen?
You know, I don't have my notes in front of me. What I sent you already. I don't know if you already consolidated that, but
Well,
I think Trish should probably capture all the transportation safety related things there.
so collaboration again with other committees that are CPUN committees, but other organizations as well. With DPS, with the City Central Park Business Association. We also have different organizations that are full of volunteers, like Shiloh and like the Grands, that can be tapped into, and the folks over at what's the name, Kristen? The gentleman that was at that RNO 101 with the Kappa.
Oh, Kappa Tower. Yeah.
Kappa Tower. So, I mean, there's just people, a lot of people, a lot of resources in terms of volunteers for various roles. People kept talking about advocating for students and for staff, but we were very short on specifics. So that to me needs to be addressed. And I'm sure we all have ideas about how we can do that, but yeah, let's advocate. That was the word that was used time and again, but we need specifics about that. Choice versus neighborhood schools came up a lot, and that had to do with well, transportation, you know, figures into that too, but that came up. Capacity, and then again, volunteers in various roles in terms of what schools need, what kids need, what schools need. So those were the things that were repeating themselves again and again. And then, so I am going to share that with the members of the committee and anybody else. I'm happy to share that with anybody who's on this call, certainly with you. And I just would like to hear from the other people who are on the call. So tell me, Shira, I didn't say that right, did I? Is she on?
It's Kira.
Shira,
Yeah.
pardon me. So tell me your interest in being on the call right now.
Yeah, my like intention with joining is kind of to see what topics were being talked about. I haven't been super aware, I guess, of things that are happening in the community. And so I'm just trying to get a better understanding of
Okay.
what impacts what's happening. Yeah.
And I'm happy to include you in that summary as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. All right. So
Carol, could I add something?
absolutely.
Kristen's idea about bike stories, I think, is excellent. It's an example of, I think, sort of the overarching theme that I saw in the survey, and I think that Tricia has brought up, and Kristen and Amy and others, I think, is that looking for things that we actually can do,
Right.
that are doable, and things like a bike storage kind of thing would be kind of project that's probably is doable. And
Yeah.
things like Amy had mentioned, a voter registration support at Northfield, for instance, that's
Well,
probably something that could be doable.
okay,
Um,
yeah, and I have the list of things from Northfield, and I was in touch with the League of Women Voters last spring. And
Yeah.
so we have a contact at the school who's responded to me, and Amy brought up that she's interested in doing that when I was explaining that and kind of bringing that up again, and also Rita Hughes, who's with Indivisible 80238. They have been in the high schools, and so that's been an ongoing kind of, how do we make this happen? So that is ongoing, and I'm happy to put that into the summary in terms of the specifics as to what we can do
Okay.
with that. And one of the reasons that they were not pursuing not just Northfield High School, but other high schools in the district was a lack of volunteers. So yeah, we can put
I
that
think
up.
that's probably something we could probably generate some interest in.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that was mentioned in the survey had to do with the flashing signs, for instance, about school zones. I don't
Oh,
know
right.
how difficult
Yeah.
that is to get the city to do, and perhaps Bree would know a lot more about that kind of ask. And I'm sure it's not simple, and they're not cheap, but that is perhaps something else that might be doable to actually advocate for. And I think it does draw people's attention. I've seen it a lot around Bill Roberts, for instance. People do slow down. But that's just another example to me that something that the committee could actually try to do. And versus the advocacy things are really good ideas, but a lot of those things, uh, like in bullying, things like that, are real student school centered. I don't know that
Yeah.
the committee can have that much influence on. So
Right. The schools usually take that stuff and they run with it. So it's tough
yeah,
for us. Like we can support them, but I don't know that we can do anything. The bike storage, Kurt did that over at McAuliffe. He did that whole big gated in fenced area. And then he had I think they had teachers assigned every morning, and they had like a window of 15 minutes to get their bikes in there, and then they would lock it up. And it worked pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
I think ultimately they ended up having to put a ceiling on it because originally they had it open and then the kids were jumping over and then stealing the bikes anyway.
Yep.
Like, and so I think I haven't been by it, but I feel like they put a gate or like a fencing over the top of it. But it was a very easy, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was easy.
Kristen, did you want to add something?
Brian, when you were talking about volunteerism and so forth, it just occurred to me. So we have a junior and sophomore, junior, senior at Northfield, and the junior and senior, they're looking at internships and college applications and so forth. And I was just reading in the front porch that a couple of kids at Northfield came up with the idea to put in these like picnic tables with solar panels on top and as a charging station and a place to sit on campus. And they got a grant from someone to do that. And I just connected the two. And I wonder if somehow we could work with Northfield to find kids who are looking for a little feather to put in their college application, because they're all looking for them right now. And partner with them to come up with a creative idea, or, maybe it's bike storage. Maybe somehow we can work with them to get a grant.
Yeah.
To reward the kids for doing all the process of applying for the grant and helping the community. There might be a connection there. I know there's the career center at Northfield. There's got to be one or two people in Northfield who kind of help kids who have ideas like that to find grant funding.
They have the incubator, which I have volunteered at, and Joey is the guy who's in charge of it, and Joey and Tara are in charge of it, and they run a class. So it's a class in the business track that they do. It's a really good class. but it's like Shark Tank, right? Essentially is what
Yeah,
it is. But these kids come up with all these ideas. But in general, their business track, we've been talking to the business department about having more of that type of like teaching, right? Like
Yeah.
how do you, not necessarily how do you become an entrepreneur, but if you have an idea or whatever, how do you get
Go find
funding for
funding.
it and that, like all that kind of stuff. So we might reach out to Tara and Joey and see if maybe they, you know, would be interested in, or maybe hook us up with some different business teachers there.
Yeah, Elizabeth Martin's a good friend of mine. I'll actually, she teaches business there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm happy
That'd
to
be
reach
great.
out to her. I don't know Joey and Tara. Do you want to contact
Yeah,
them?
Joey
I'll
runs
contact
that. He
them.
specifically runs that incubator, and then
Okay.
actually Tara runs it, and she's actually a special ed para, but
Mhm.
she got really involved in it, and so that's what she does. And
Okay.
Joey actually teaches the class. So
Okay.
I forget what his last name is, but we called him Joey.
Well, last year I talked with April Slater, and then I talked with the vice principal who's no longer there, Adam, about volunteers and specific organizations and specific roles for volunteers that they need at the field, that they would very much appreciate, and mentors and coaches with a program. And then, of course, when kids have to do in their junior and senior year, they're doing community service. So they very much need adults who can help them along with that. So there are different ways to specifically advocate for kids in things that already exist. The needs already exist.
Mhm. I'm happy to reach out to Elizabeth Martin, a friend of mine in the business track there, and just float that idea by her and see if there'd be some support to help us connect with kids who are looking for something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
It shouldn't be all that hard. It shouldn't be all that expensive either to really lock it up. It's a matter of how do they figure out how to man it, really, like, because they do have to lock it up during the day, right? And so it's a factor of how do they figure, like middle school kids can't leave off campus, right? So like, but the high school kids can't. So like, how do they figure that out?
Yep.
Okay, what else do we need to add on, talk about, ruminate over?
So what I would like to do is, you know, I would like to formulate an actual plan here.
Yeah.
And assign people like, okay, you call this person, you call this person, you call this person type thing, and actually find the people that need to be involved. While I am all about cross collaboration, too many cooks in the kitchen makes it worse. Right. And so we need to find the people that are actually the people that we need to talk to. And then, you know, try to see if we can't agree on a time and a place for a meeting to like figure out what exactly is the issue. Like, what's the big hard stop here?
Are you able to meet during the day? I'm happy to, I mean, this is something that I have been like kind of tuned into probably about since I started my position about 4 months ago. And unfortunately, summer kind of hampered that. And then the start back to school has been kind of slow moving to getting people to talk. But I'm happy to
Sure.
be the contact point in our office and set that up.
That'd be
All right.
great. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, what I'd like to do is just put this all together and get it out to the rest of the committee and to the people who are on this call, and then figure out the doables. And you've already identified a few of the doables, and then have a meeting and then identify the people, specific plans, and then identifying players, and then taking action. So.
That'd be great.
Good idea, Chris.
And okay, so, and I know that as soon as you get off this call, you're going to be thinking of things, other things and details and that sort of thing, which is fine, because it's easy enough for us to all communicate with one another, and think about how we can refine some of these things. But yeah, what else do we need to talk about before we part ways here?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Brian, Kristen.
I have a quick question. As far as like information sharing, like for any, I think like links or plans or agendas for anything, do y'all prefer to work in Google or Microsoft? Do you have a preference?
You mean as far as meetings, like Google Meeting or
Yeah, for like any kind of like information sharing, I think regarding this, like what would be the best to make sure that CPUN members are able to access stuff, or maybe anyone else we pull in.
Oh, we could probably, I think probably Google is probably the easiest. We could just do a drive if you want, or a spreadsheet.
All right, sounds good.
Good. Okay. Any final words?
Nope, sounds good. Moving forward.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate you all.
Awesome. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
It's like, oh no, what's